video, all the time, next generation video technologies. So we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at some of the different technology pieces and technology players, some of the different business models, and talk a bit about content and where it's actually going to come from. You know, somebody made this point to me last night that 1 year ago, in October of 2005, was the first month that YouTube had traffic meaningful enough for media metrics to measure. It was 100,000 unique visitors. And today we show 100 million videos a day. It's not bad growth. It's 100,000 to 100 million. All right, not bad. In a year, with very little venture capital money, relatively. And just having to tap the right scene at the right time. It's either startlingly good luck, incredibly brilliant judgment, or some combination of the above. That'll be probably one of the things I suspect will come up. First off, I want to introduce the panel. We're going to go down, everybody's going to kind of introduce themselves and their company, what they do, and then we'll pose a few questions, kind of see where the conversation goes, and then open up the questions. Why don't we start?
Thanks. Good morning. Thanks for. My name is Todd Bose. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Product Management at Maven Networks. Maven Networks is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We are a software provider of video publishing and workflow solutions. We focus on professional media companies who want to create and deliver broadband video channels direct to the consumer. Some of our customers include Sony Pictures Television, CBS, the Weather Channel, and the company is about 6 years old and enjoying the explosive growth of broadband video.
Excellent. Dave?
Hi, my name is David Clark. I'm the Vice President with Search for Video. We can be found at www.searchforvideo.com. We're a video search engine targeted towards consumers mainly. We work with partners such as HBO, Discovery Networks, GoToIt. We're a little different than other search engines in that we don't stream any content. What we do is we're an indexing system, and when someone does a search, they see a result, they see a thumbnail, they decide that's the content they want. When they click on it, we actually launch a media player or browser where the content exists on top of our site. So we're generating traffic to those sites. So as such, we work with a lot of partnerships with different content companies and providers. Our main audience would be in North America, but we've reached out to the international market. We index a fair amount of content in both Spanish and German. We're open to working with pretty much anybody. And in short, if you've got any other questions, please just grab me after the show.
Great. Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie Forrest with Brightcove, and I do business development here on the West Coast. We're headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have offices in New York, Seattle, San Francisco, and staff here in LA. And basically, Brightcove is a broadband solution for video for people who have content that they want to put on the internet and monetize. We provide a lot of solutions for that. We allow you to build these broadband experiences, be able to monetize, and be able to syndicate your content and build affiliate networks. We also have a lot of tools that allow you to do really creative things with your content, from paid downloads, where we manage the whole experience from the billing transactions and all the customer care. And then we give you tools to create these great, like players where you could, have this brand experience for your content to be exhibited to your customers. And everything is an open platform. It allows you to easily use these tools to be able to launch your businesses. And we're launching some additional cool features like consumer-generated media tools and video mashup tools. Really exciting things, and you'll be hearing some big announcements on Monday about this. Our customers are, major Hollywood studios, cable networks, large newspapers, Wall Street Journal, and so forth. We also acquired a company called MetaStories, which is a company that allows you to create these really rich experiences with your content, such as creating interactive JPEG maps and audio experiences as well.
Fabulous. Other Dave.
Dave Graves, I'm CEO of Permission TV. We make an internet television publishing platform, and we do all the same things that the other guys do. It's a system that you can build highly customized applications in really as little as a matter of days. Our customers include Fox Interactive, MGM, Barnes & Noble, people like that. And we're a company that's a white label technology. We don't put our brand in your consumer's face. It's really about helping people who have decent content, interesting content, go into the publishing business, video publishing business.
Great, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning. We're also based in Boston.
We're based in Boston. You have to be based in Boston to be in this business.
We're in Seattle.
But you're a search. It's okay for search to be in Seattle. It's official.
So again, good morning. GoToIt Media is a digital media company focused on delivering what we consider to be an entirely new class of on-demand video delivered to multiple platforms, including cable, broadband, and mobile. And our unique take on things is that we really focus less, like some of the folks here, on making content available on multiple platforms, and more on helping the consumer search and navigate that content once they've accessed it. So what we've done is to take proprietary technology that allows for very granular tagging, that provides a metadata layer that allows the consumer to search and navigate inside the file in a way that really gives them instant access to the segments they determine to be most interesting, and then deliver that product to, as I mentioned, cable VOD, to broadband through GoToIt.com, and we'll announce next week our first launch with a major wireless carrier in mobile. And at GoToIt, we've really focused on partnering with rights holders in key categories such as music, sports, news, and entertainment to deliver premium professional content to users.
Excellent. I'm Scott Ehrlich. I'm managing partner of a company based up in Seattle, with offices down here in LA as well. The company's called Digworks. So we're actually the content provider, content producer side of the equation. What we do is we distribute, produce, and finance digital media properties. We work with some big companies like ABC and MTV Networks, but we also work directly with creators and producers to develop multi-platform things for television, broadband, mobile, and also content that's specifically for broadband and mobile, and then go out and distribute that, kind of the way a traditional studio does. So I'll sort of take the content provider perspective. Based on the topic of the panel, I thought a good place to start would just say, the purpose of the panel is all video all the time. Right? Is video going to be part of everything, everywhere, or what? And so the question is really, is video just a data type, or is it something else? Right? Is it just a data type like a JPEG is a data type, and a Word document is a data type, or is it something different than that? Are all the great capabilities that the platform that you guys are putting together really reducing something that in this panel was always held sacred, right? The moving picture, to just another data type? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Tom?
Yeah, I don't, maybe certainly doesn't view video as just a specific data type. One of the things we're really
good, by the way, that was right answer.
One of the things that we're really seeing is the kind of the culmination of video and community wrapped around that. So it's much broader than just looking at an MPEG video slice. It's wrapping a lot of other content around that video and presenting that out in front of the consumer in such a way that they're engaged, they're consuming more of that media. Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and whether it's free ad-supported content or paid media, the idea is to get the consumer to increase consumption of that media. So we look at media, when we ingest media into our system, it's just not a video file. There's a significant amount of metadata that gets wrapped around that, as well as community and personalization features as well. And that kind of makes up the whole consumer experience.
But that's sort of what I'm getting at, right? Is in that thing, you're looking at the experience as there's some community, there's some text content, there's some pictures, and there's also some video. in that context, video really is just a data type. In the world of traditional television, film, entertainment, video is it, right? It is the story, it is the experience, right? The only thing that changes is the screen you see it on. But you're really talking about something where there's a broad experience, and video is really just a component of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the question then becomes, and Mark, if you want to take this, but the question becomes, how does storytelling change, right? How do we change what it is that that we present to consumers as entertainment or news for that?
You know, as we looked at that, and almost from the outset at the inception of the company, we've been focused on giving the power that has traditionally been held by the executive producer to the consumer, such that the consumer can determine what stories, what length, what order, so they have control over the viewing experience, and it becomes this personalized, non-linear experience. So I think storytelling and accessing information and entertainment really changes when that level of control is given to the consumer, and he or she can determine what they feel is most interesting, what they feel are the best parts, versus a producer sitting in New York or Los Angeles making those decisions for them. So I think it is certainly more participatory. People get involved, they do join the community and begin to have not only an entertainment experience, but one that really involves them as part of the process.
Content is also coming from more places. It wasn't that many years ago that
Did you read my sheet, by the way? My next question was, where's the content coming from? Did you?
I did look really cool.
No, go ahead.
You know, content, it wasn't that many years ago that content was either, you know, a high budget on film or video for TV, and no one would even think about shooting a movie in video. And then along came the, you know, much more technology, much better cameras. George Lucas played around with it, suddenly it was okay. And now to now, a lot of really good content that didn't come on film or, you know, from the professionals comes from the outside and comes in.
So if you've got content coming from consumers, right, and, you know, one has to sort of normalize for a lot of what's called user-generated content. It's really just user-uploaded content, right? They took it off their TiVo and put it out. They didn't really create it. It turns out it's still Jon Stewart. What's the business model, right? I mean, today, for all intents and purposes, at least on the web, right, it's an ad-supported model, right? There aren't any, out of the adult category, right, or aside from the adult category, there really aren't any really big subscription businesses. So what's the right form of advertising? I know, Jackie, you guys focus a lot on advertising.
Yeah.
Is it pre-roll, post-roll? We're going to like live with that forever?
It's a combination of it all. And really, it's finding out, first of all, there certainly is a glut of content out there, and not all advertisers are going to want to advertise just because there's content out there. So it's still like a weeding out of trying to find what quality content is out there that's going to basically get all the advertising eventually. You know, right now there are, you know, you have your long tail content. There's, you know, cats falling off couches, you know, that type of video, and you know, is an advertiser going to want to put their ad there? Well, you know, we all love cats falling off couches, but we don't know if that's going to be what advertisers are going to want to put their ads with. So we've created, you know, multiple ad formats, and we're creating standards around it, because that's one of the big problems out there is advertisers are, you know, they want to put their content out there, but they don't know if they need to do a 60-second pre-roll or a 10-second pre-roll. There's so many variations, and really it depends on the type of content. For example, a full-length television show from an ABC, you know, hit show, is that going to merit, you know, maybe a 1-minute pre-roll, and versus a, you know, music video that might be, you know, 4 minutes long, is that going to merit a 1 minute? Probably not. So it's really, right now, figuring out the standards, what kind of video ad is going to be appropriate with the content. And then there's a bunch of units. There's ways to increase your CPM by building more ad units with your content. So at Brightcove, we've created these multiple formats and ways for you to generate higher CPMs for your ads, because there's multiple ad units that are there, things that are interactive, synced rich media, banner ads to go with the video pre-roll, leave behind banners, video takeovers, overlays. We're creating a bunch of different ad units to help you monetize your content. So one of the big problems out there is how do the people who have content make a business out of it? And so we created a bunch of different ad solutions for that. For people that don't have a big brand, that don't have a lot of traffic, how do they make money? How do they build a business out of this? And what we do is we create these, a couple of things. We create these ad networks, which allow you to be part of a community of people who don't have these large brands, who don't get a lot of traffic, to participate in that and to get revenue immediately while having your content exhibited on the internet, on your site, and then building affiliate networks. Now, I call this the affiliate long tail. And what that means is there's a lot of people who have content on their site, but they can't get a lot of traffic to their site. So how do they extend, what are the tentacles that they could put out there to extend the reach of their content? So we built this platform, we call it our syndication marketplace. And what that is it allows you to go in there to put your content offers in there, and people that are looking for content to put on their site that they have an affinity with, they could go to you and say like, hi, you know, Mr. Website, can I have your content please? And then you get to then pick and choose where your content gets to go. Or you could do it in a viral manner, which is allowing people to just copy the code and embed it on their site, and then your content with your ad, with all your monetization, goes to those affiliate sites, and you can start building this incredibly long tail network of affiliates. And all of a sudden your traffic, which was, you know, 10,000 streams turns into 10 million streams because you have all these affiliates now who are able to take that content and put it on their site.
So from a content provider perspective, that's a pretty scary concept, right? I mean, you sort of got two trends going on the content provider side now, right? One is, hey, we finally recognize that we should ourselves put out our best stuff because as it turns out it's already been on the internet, right? And one of my favorite things I used to do was, you know, when I go talk to the head of network or whatnot, they launch into their speech about how they're going to control their content. They're going to decide what things go, and then I pull out my Arcos and show them something I recorded off their network that morning, right? And then I email them the file from my BlackBerry, and the only thing they really wanted to know was, you know, the name and address of my lawyer, but that was but there's a bit of a tension, right, between wanting to take advantage of this near ubiquitous viral distribution, wanting to control your ad sales, right? Because, you know, as an ABC, for example, they don't want to walk into Darcy and find out that YouTube had just been there selling them Desperate Housewives for less money, right? That's the nightmare scenario. So how do you think they reconcile that tension between wanting to go big and wanting to maintain control, right? What sort of, David, I don't know if we take this, but sort of, how does that balance out?
Well, obviously a lot of it's dependent on the exact content you're talking about here. I mean, Desperate Housewives is different than Warriors news feeds, as an example. And I used to run Warriors Media, so I know that, you know, Warriors has a different standard for, you know, they're thrilled if anybody wants to pay them. Right. So part of it's content dependent. But I think that the bigger question is, well, we all like to talk about this whole viral syndication thing. I mean, if you look at the print web, you know, we're dealing with two different webs here now. We had the print web for 15 years, and it was primarily about text and pictures and graphics and little teeny, you know, maybe Windows media players with crappy video. And that was really a close-up, 2-foot experience as you use your mouse and your keyboard to navigate. And that's not going away. That's an important web, and you know, we all use it and love it. But now we're seeing the growth of the television web. It's what Microsoft foresaw about Blue, of course, and MediaSet. Because we know they would always do it wrong, even though they may have the right idea.
It's the version 3 thing.
Yeah,
right? One doesn't work.
No one wants their content, you know, shoved in with other people's content the way they foresaw. But the idea of a 10-foot experience and something you navigated with remote control was a good thing.
Right.
You know, that's really, so that I call it the AM and FM. You know, AM, remember AM radio in the 70s and 80s was, you know, disc jockeys talk really fast, 8 minutes of commercials and 3-minute songs. And then these guys came along who played album cuts and smoked funny things, you know, 6 minutes of commercials, and that was this FM thing that was down the hall, and you didn't really know what that was, but it was weird. And a lot of the AM guys never made the transition to the FM, you know, but music did. And today, basically, FM is music, and that's most of the radio, except for a few all news stations. We're seeing something similar here. I'm not sure the migration will be quite as dramatic, but we're seeing the text web is now being joined by the television web. What do you want to call it, television 2.0 or television 1.5 or something. But basically, it's a very different, 10-foot experience, more passive, plenty of time where you're going to want to sit back and look at something for 15 minutes. And, DVD quality video and all that stuff is important to the television web. So, the strategy we've taken with our technology, not that anyone cares about our technology, but basically we figured out that you have to be able to navigate both webs. You've got to have a product that starts in the text web, because that's what people are, and gradually or at the appropriate time brings you over to the television web when it's time to look at something big and fancy. I'm not, as much as I'd like to be, I'm not as bullish on the whole viral syndication, link exchange kind of approach to video. There's only so many Matt Drudges, right, who can make a lot of money just pointing at things. Yahoo and Google, the world has moved on to search, right? Search is how people find stuff. Not necessarily, by getting lots of people to teach you your links. Maybe it'll work. I mean, some of that will happen. But, by and large, most people, use the search engines to find stuff. I think actually the most interesting model out there is the combination of DMARC and YouTube/Google Video. I mean, Google is trying to perpetuate or trying to extend its auction model into television and traditional media. That's the most interesting thing that's happening today. Whether they pull it off or not, they want to move it. If you know anything about the advertising business, dragging the existing challenged media buying structure of the advertising agency into this world, it's going to be very difficult since they still haven't caught up with cable television. So they've got a ways to go to get to, we have something in our system called a telescoping ad, which is a 10-second teaser that then invites you to watch something that could be as long as an infomercial. And that's more like a Google search ad, and it'll be very big CPMs. There isn't an advertising system, whether it's Donovan, AdWare, Gray's system, anybody's system that can handle that. So making that scale at this point is going to be extremely difficult.
Well, that sort of goes back to...
So there's a time thing here. It'll happen, but it could be 10 years. That's why Google may win with their, you go on and you've got a product and I want to buy a television spot that's, 20 seconds and place it in YouTube and I don't care what it's next to as long as someone sees it. It's for a local plumber, that's geographically targeted. That's the AdWord model.
Right, but that goes back to the standards question that Jackie raised before, right? I mean, I've been doing these panels for several years now, and for several years now, when we do the panel about video and advertising, it's, my God, we really need standards or no standards. So it's painful. It continues to be painful. Now you're talking about a whole new class of advertising.
Think about how Google started.
No, but you're not talking about a whole new class.
Guys who have $1,000 a month to spend.
This is my point, right? You're now talking about a whole new class of advertising and advertiser, and we haven't even figured out the old stuff yet.
And we probably never will.
Well, that's the question, right? I mean,
I just don't think that you're talking about the future of digital video online, which, it's still video. It's not that different. It's going to gain a layer of interactivity because it's on the internet. But still, watching a half-hour show is watching a half-hour show. It's not, choosing Bo Derek's dress, while she's running around and teledevelopment.
Yeah,
watching.
Yeah. I mean, well, it turns out most people when they watch TV still lean back. I mean, I had a young creative director tell me 2 weeks ago that I really didn't understand things because television was dead. I said, what do you mean by dead? He said, well, nobody watches TV. I said, well, and if you read Nielsen, it looks like there's about 200 million people who watch TV. And he said, that's got to be wrong.
Less people are watching TV the way they used to watch it.
Well, there's that, and people are watching it more flexibly.
Oh, and actually consumption is growing because of the options on demand and so forth.
That's pretty much it. If you ask anybody who's a serious television watcher, do they watch more television today than they did 5 years ago? Generally, the answer is yes. Some of that, by the way, is because there's better product on TV, right? There's more money coming into TV. If you look at the fall slates, they're all movie stars, and it wasn't that long ago where you wouldn't catch James Woods dead on a television show, never mind starring in it, and Ray Liotta, and on and on and on, right? And the networks are the networks are so full up with talent right now. It doesn't bother anybody to cancel Ray Liotta's show after 2 runs, or Heather Graham's show after half an episode, right? $10 million marketing campaign, 1 episode. Do the math, carry the 1. Bad, right?
Do you think that more people are spending more time online than they are watching TV? I mean, we could see a show of hands. How many people spend more time on their computer than watching TV?
Well, there's a good chance this is a skewed audience.
I think it's a trend that's growing, that people are spending more time online, and I think that's why the advertising is moving that way, and that's why video is moving that way.
Well, it comes a little bit back to the original question, right? Is video just a data type, right? Because
Well, video
the
is,
question, well, let me just frame it, right, is if indeed that's true, then it kind of makes sense, because it doesn't matter where I consume it, it's just a piece of data, right? It's bits and bytes, it's zeros and ones.
Well,
Right?
of course-
All I
of
use is
course
a device that can decipher that.
it's a data type, because everything's a data type. But I've never had to say this ever in my life to my daughter. Would you put down that book and start watching some television? For God's sake, you're spending so much time reading. It's the king of the data types. You know, it's video. It's what people like to do. They like to watch. And the fact is, you know, we have lived in the print web for 15 years or so, depending on when you start living in it. And video sucked for most of it. You know, I used to run media for Yahoo, and we bought broadcast.com. And that was really a success. And it was just too early.
Cuban has a different thing.
It was success for Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
But the fact is that it's now time. You know, the bandwidth is there, the processors are there, the hard drives are big enough. Video now works on the internet, and now we're just kind of figuring it out. And it's not going to, you know, devastate overnight the traditional channels of broadcast / cable / satellite, certainly DVD. But it's going to grow alongside those. And every year there's going to be more kind of TiVo on demand, TiVo on steroids internet consumption, you know, on demand that you don't have to pre-plan, that you're going to consume. And if any significant amount of prime time viewing moves over to the internet will die. It is right now not capable of handling files that big in that volume.
Right.
If you do the calculation of how much viewing that would be, 5% of prime time audience moved over to Mae West, you can kiss it goodbye. So there's a lot of things that have to be figured out before we do that. And there's nothing wrong, you know, television cable systems are a very efficient way of delivering lots of bits. So it's not going to go away, and you know, and everybody's getting a TiVo from Comcast. It's not a TiVo anymore, but you know. So it's just going to play its role, but it is going to be an interesting additional channel that's going to grow probably faster than. Well, I can't say it's going to grow faster than DVDs. Look how fast, in 1997, DVDs were not a factor in the movie business, and now they're $22 billion of revenue.
Well, not only that, they gave everybody a big shot in the army because they realized they could release old TV shows, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, those things are pure marketing.
So it's going to grow along with it. It's not going to change the world, but it's going to be an increasing manner of delivering video to various devices.
So then the next question is how do we connect consumers? And this is a layup for you, so you don't get to answer. How do we connect consumers to video? I mean, people are investing in these applications. They're buying your services to build video-based applications, right? How are they going to find the people to come and watch it and make money?
Well, a lot of that is through viral syndication, sending video clips to your friends, making the video available so somebody can easily go up and grab it and put it on their MySpace pages. And creating a syndication network. Ultimately, that's how people will discover it. And then also the community aspect of it. I'll go back to my original point. Video is just one slice of the experience. And I look at, Viacom and TV Overdrive, and there's a great example of somebody who gets it. The MTV Overdrive website is, certainly there's a lot of video out there, but there's gaming, there's community. And they've done a really nice job of wrapping all those three elements together. And that's really the viral aspect of the platform. It's just, video's great, but it's one component of it. And it's really the community and the other stuff that will drive adoption and drive others to find that content and consume it.
So a question for Dave Clark and Mark. I think there's a balance of trying to get people to video, right? There's some people who are going to come to your property and they know what they're looking for because somebody told them about it, they read about it in the press, they know what they're looking for, and search works wonderfully well for that. But there are also people who come by and say, you know what? Well, this is my theory, that people who still want to be entertained. People still want to sit back and have somebody say, hey, watch this is cool, right? I mean, do you see that there's a balance between those things? Do you think it's one or the other? I don't know, Dave or Mark, who wants to start?
In our situation, it's more from the search aspect because that's what we do. and we help people discover content, and then we direct them to it, and they view it at a place where they're viewing it where the content came from.
But your homepage isn't the Google homepage. It's not a blank page with an input box. You feature.
Right, we feature content. We also break down into categories: entertainment, sports, etc. And then if someone just, hopefully, we win somebody over and they spend more time on our site, then they find out that we have multiple channels where we actually, athletes and actors and people, we build channels specifically for those people. And then, Britney Spears would be a bad example, but then you've already got searches that have been done and building with all these other different topics, people relating to that. But it's a lot about discovery and in consuming it, we're in that space where people are having a bite and a snack. And when it gets on farther to meals, that's when people are going to other services, and then they're going back to the couch. So you have a certain timeline that you can be in front of the screen, and then if it's something long form or at a certain point, you want to sit back and they ease back towards where's my remote. Mark?
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned at the outset, my opening comments, that we still view the world as being less about making content available to consumers and more about how do we help the consumer quickly and easily find what he or she is most interested in. And so while syndication is an important element of making that work, it's, in our view, less about getting the content to an audience and more about helping the audience find quickly and easily what they want. I think the human capacity to recall is limited at say, about 12 or 15 pieces of information. If you stop and think about the number of sites you visit on a regular basis, it's somewhere in the dozen range. And the same is probably true if you look at your 500-channel lineup, where you probably go to about a dozen stages for entertainment and information. 7. I mean, it depends, but it's certainly not a large number. So I think competing to be one of those 7 is a very difficult thing. And what we've done is to take a different approach, which is to say, how do we create a data structure, and how do we very granularly identify information that makes it really simple and easy for the consumer to find what he or she is most interested in.
Sorry, one more question, and then we'll open up to questions. How big a market is this, and how are you going to measure that? I mean, is this, how big a market is this? How big a market can it be? Jackie, you want to?
Well, it's global for us, and we have very sophisticated reporting tools to allow people to measure very fine-grained how their content is performing, how much revenue they're generating, and how their affiliates are doing as well. So you can see what are your top affiliates and how is the content performing on those sites as well. So yeah, I mean, we find that measurements are incredibly key to building a legitimate business.
David Graves, you said it's not going to take over, but how big can it get?
Well, I mean, what define big? I mean,
that's the question.
I mean, it just depends what the market is. I mean, some of this is just, most of it's just shifting stuff from other places.
Let's say the market is ad-supported video online.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are, right? I mean, the television advertising, $74 billion business for this year. And internet video advertising in 2007 will be somewhere around 1% of that, or $700 million. So as a percentage of total video advertising, it's actually quite small. But like all things, it's not the size with the growth rate.
But is it zero growth rate? Are we just moving money from 74 to somewhere?
What Google has done and Yahoo Overture have done in search, they have created additional advertising because they made the market accessible to smaller advertisers. There was there were guys, the guy in my office spends $1,000 a month on AdWords, for a side business that he has, for his birthday party. Right? That kind of advertising didn't really exist. The globe really wasn't a great medium for that kind of advertising, and so you created additional advertising opportunities by doing that. That's going to happen in this, to the extent that we can make the television advertising system accessible to smaller and smaller advertisers who couldn't participate in the previous one. So that'll be the incremental. And the rest of it will just be shift from television, or part of it will be cut back, unfortunately for all of us. General Motors is probably ain't going to spend as much as it did. I remember a time when General Motors alone made the difference between my radio station having a good year because of their budget, their spending. So that's going to dissipate, and you're going to lose some of that kind of advertising. And also, as advertising gets more efficient, there used to be the saying that half my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. We're starting to figure out which half. So that could potentially reduce the total advertising spend over what it was as a percentage of GNP 20 years ago.
Well, you also redefine what the advertising spend is. I mean, is Bud TV a programming exercise or an advertising exercise?
So right now, yeah, everybody's in the media business. You know, advertisers used to just be in the advertising business. You know, they go out 30-second ad.
Right.
Now, the most important channel to their consumer might be their website. And so doing media on the website, but you know what? That's 1950. It's soap operas, it's game shows, it's all the stuff that when television wasn't making any money, and the guys who own, you know, companies that own television networks thought they were going to go out of business, they turned it over to advertisers and let them produce whatever they wanted. They put their ads in. That's going to come back. It's clearly coming back in a big way. You know, the advertising agencies are all out there saying, great, television on the internet. You know, we hated banners. Now it's time. So you're going to see a lot of that. And now what you call it? Is that advertising spend or what is it?
I think that's the question, right? I mean, I don't think it's been lost on anybody that, you know, virtually every major brand has an agent in Hollywood, although nobody's actually figured out why.
But the big question is, there's a disproportionate amount, if you look at the video stream out there, a lot of it is coming from, you know, consumer-generated media, very short clips and stuff. So the big question is, you know, how much of that $7 billion of advertising is going to be put up against that disproportionate amount of video streaming versus the original, you know, professionally produced content. And that's, you know, the jury is out on that right now.
Well, then you have even another factor where video communications, right? I mean, one of the most successful things I think Comcast has done in the last few years is their video net service. Of all the things that they put online as services and content, that's one of the things that's gotten the most uptake. And, you know, again, it's the same question. Is that additive, right? Does it cross over into the video territory, or is it something completely different? Questions?
Yeah, I'm not from Boston, so I don't know how much I know. Like you guys, Mr. Richmond is in the audience. You're from Boston too, right? Yeah. Okay.
No one calls her Mr. Richmond. I think it's
Willie.
kids' friends.
I just know a lot of people are from Boston. I'm not sure why, but
We're not sure why.
I personally don't think that TV has necessarily been TV since TiVo came out, because I don't know if it's been a linear experience, because I don't ever watch it linearly. I always fast forward, and I always rewind, and I always pause, so I would think that that's pretty interactive. So I don't know if it's been TV. And secondly, so if you get broadband over to the television, then I think you're in the same, it's almost the same thing unless that creates some new form of broadband content.
It's an awful burden.
And the other thought was in terms of the search, I think is it the search on Google to find the video, or is it search from your broadband channel or your site itself that's more important? Because how do you get there in the first place? If you're not searching on Google or one of the search engines, you can't even get there. So, am I on the right track?
The first question on the issue of television, still even television, I mean, TiVo was up until recently only had less than 3 million units sold. So it's not exactly like it took over the world, and DVRs didn't really start to populate until the cable companies started making them available for $9.95 a month. The price point was just too high for TiVo up until, maybe a year and a half ago. And there's only, I think at this moment, 300,000 TiVos that are broadband connected in terms of delivering content. So, that's not been a factor, but it is a growing factor. But however, 85%, I believe, of viewing on TiVo is season pass. Meaning you had to, stuff that you didn't really think that clearly about, you just said, I love Desperate Housewives, just always get it. So there's still a consumer, piece of work that has to be done to TiVo something. You've got to think of it in advance and record it, because it's, when you think of it at the moment you want to watch it, it's too late, generally, or too early. So one way you can look at all this in terms of entertainment programming, it's just the internet's just going to be TiVo on steroids, the TiVo that you don't have to create, or Comcast on demand, which only, I think, at this point has 10,000 hours available, so it can't really be the long tail or even the middle of the tail. It's just the top of it. That's it's the top.
But a little bit of the question is,
so we can fill in that.
Is if the world is all on demand and search, when I launched the new Desperate Housewives, how on earth do I let you know it's there, right? If you're not watching commercials, and the way you're finding stuff is through search, and you've got all of your favorites either coming to your TiVo automatically or being downloaded a folder on your PC. How do I connect it, right? When I want to watch a new show, where do I go?
Well, it is an issue, but there's still going to be an aggregator model. You know, the Yahoos and Googles and the you know, MSNs and AOLs that have an audience, and iTunes. I mean, a lot of people who think, you know, and are concerned about the fact that they may have to do business with iTunes because of the aggregator model. They have traffic on there of people looking for videos to watch, and there's really two ways you find content. The aggregator model, where it could be on your own channel, whatever you want to call that, because you know, it's a video of a certain interest category. So I'm there to look at one thing and I see something else. I mean, it's really how video has always been. How did Desperate Housewives get, you know, it used promos and lead-ins and, you know, from these shows in front of you. You're just going to perpetuate it. So when you're watching a show that's similar to Desperate Housewives, there's probably going to be a promo in it for another show that's like Desperate Housewives. So this line, it won't be that different.
It also had that water cooler effect. It had people talking about it, and people writing about it, and blogging about it. And they'll still buy billboards. And
People, aggregation and search. I don't think a lot of people will find in Desperate Housewives by saying, you know, search for an edgy comedy that has lots of cleavage. Okay, fine.
Actually, there's much of that does show up on search queries.
Yeah, but I don't think they're looking for that PG-13.
That's why I said there was some of it.
Yeah.
Questions?
Don't we have a concern today that most of the content is being created by consumers for the web, and the quality benchmark keeps lowering itself, and it's more about what the story's about than what it technically looks like? So although we have the capability of delivering broadband, we're delivering really inferior quality content, which is generating the largest audience and getting all the buzz. And it's like, why are we, in other words, we're building infrastructure and trying to build a broadband infrastructure. Why do we care if the content that we're getting is kind of the factors and all of the benchmarks keeps lowering itself? Because you can look at that in a small window, people don't care. And the consumer today grew up in that small window, and they don't care.
Well, it's going the other direction too, right? I mean, the coverage of the events in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
More often than, well, not more often, not infrequently, you'll turn on the TV and see a very pixelated, blown-up thing that was shot with a camera phone. So I think the question is really a little bit of, does quality matter? And if the answer to that is no, right? Then if you're the creative community out here, what is it you should be making? I don't know who wants to do that.
Quality does matter if you're looking at a dramatic piece of entertainment.
Well, but if you
I mean, you know, the Hoopla in Hollywood is HD, you know, Blu-ray.
yeah, but that's long format.
Right, well, no, but I'm explaining there's the print web where long, short form is fine and probably the only thing you can deal with at that size. But when you want to watch something like an episode of television or maybe even a distance learning application where you're, you know, watching a professor demonstrate something, you're going to want to have a much higher quality, just make sure your eyes tired of everything else.
Yeah,
So,
but the thing is, but you see the consumer with their iPods and their PSPs and all these little portable devices, they're looking at the same content that you can see in the movie theater or that you can see on television, but they're looking at it in this format.
Well, first of all,
it's acceptable to them.
well,
Right?
Well, but I think-
most
but
viewing on
that's- it is
iTunes,
acceptable.
It's acceptable to
most
them.
viewing on iTunes is in the computer, not on the iPod.
Yes, but
by
look at
far.
but where it's going.
I mean, it's a pretty big
And
picture
if
of
you
it.
look, it's not, you take it out of the United States, you look at Korea and so forth, they're looking at feature films on their little players.
But they've always watched TV on little TV.
But that's right, so they get used to it.
I would suspect that a lot of viewing in Korea is done on very large plasma televisions.
Yes, but most, if you took about.
No, but there's a lot of viewing on cell phones, particularly in
Transit?
in areas where there's high commuting population that uses public transit, right? We got a lot of people on trains, you got a lot of
And
people
this
on
is a problem
buses.
because,
Well, I think the question really is a little bit of what's the thing you should be making, right? Should you be making the large, big budget, high definition thing, or should you be finding some guy who figured out if you drop Mentos in a Diet Coke, it blows up?
you should be making what you know how to make. You know, if all you know how to do is Mentos and Coke, then that's what you're stuck with. And if you can do Titanic, then you probably should do camera and do Titanic.
Also,
There's a market for both of them.
If it's
By the way,
more of a one-time only compelling type thing, clip that may not happen again, or, you know, for example, the camera phone. The New York Yankee that crashed his plane in New York, the first clip of that was a CNN guy that happened to have a trio that had a camera on it.
Yep.
That's the clip that they used because that was the only clip they had. So got watched everywhere because, you know, it was compelling enough.
I think from my standpoint, I think a little bit of the answer is it's about the picture itself, not the device it was captured on or the device it's viewed on. That's right. It's about, you know, I have the only shot of the plane hitting the building, right? And consumers are more interested in seeing the shot of the plane hitting the building than they are worrying about what kind of camera it was shot with and the quality of the video that results. I mean, that seems true, right? Or at least more true now than it used to be, right?
Yeah, because it's the instantaneousness of it.
Well,
Right? And it's the uniqueness of it. But
Right.
we're talking about, you know, they say your field of view, if you're looking like a PSP and you have it this close, it's very similar to looking at a big screen from 10 feet.
Right.
Because of the actual, how much space and how much of it fills up your peripheral vision.
Right.
Right. I think this only becomes an issue ultimately when this stuff is able to get to your TV, which we've all struggled with over the last couple of years, and maybe next year's the year. But that's obviously where the breakdown. If the TV is the device that you happen to be viewing at, well, yes, you know, a 56K or 100K clip is going to look absolutely unviewable on the television. But on the other devices, it's fantastic, and it serves a purpose, and you can consume it.
You actually raised a very interesting question. It's something that on the distribution side of the business we really, really struggle with because, you know, if you look at what's happened in telecommunications, right, the number of people I know under the age of 30 that have a landline phone rounds to 0, right? And so the question becomes, you know, is cable and satellite next, right? When I can get most of the content off the internet, and today, listen, you can go to the broadcast networks websites, many of the cable networks websites, and see full episodes of the show that was on last night. Do I also need a cable subscription? Right? I mean, it's a good thing this is a cable convention, or I'd never raise it, but that's really correct. Does a digital device, whether it's your PC or your phone for that matter, actually become your signal acquisition device, right? As opposed to the set-top box and cable subscription here for now.
Let me throw in the question, do you think it'll ever get to the point where the cable company throws in the TV channels because you've got a fast internet connection from them?
Hopefully not if I'm negotiating the deal. No, I look at some very strange business models, right? The strangest is Ryanair. Remember Ryanair, the airline in Europe? I mean, brilliant business model, right? You can buy a ticket from, you know, London to Marrakesh for $4.50. $4.50. Well, jet fuel's pretty expensive. The way these guys make money is they buy the airport, they own the real estate, they sell advertising, they sell the concessions, and they sell stuff on the planes. And their goal, their overstated goal, is to have the plane ticket be free. And they're actually pretty close. The question becomes, if the rest of the economy, whether real estate literally or digitally, right, is valuable and can be monetized, then maybe you do, right? Maybe you do say, you know what, we can fund 50 channels of programming that you get for free, along with these other services. I don't think that's an issue.
I think it's a time frame issue.
Clearly, yeah.
I mean, the companies that produce the most compelling mainstream video content today own television stations, cable companies, and satellite companies, which have huge asset values. And they're not stupid enough to cannibalize overnight their own assets. So if you look at the way the television networks have approached, you know, Desperate Housewives Online, they're starting to share revenue with affiliates. They're trying to buoy up the value of the television broadcast license. They know there's a long-term decline in the value of a broadcast license, but they're not going to accelerate that to the detriment of their stock price. So that's why it's certain that this will be a very gradual transition into whatever comes next the digital devices. And it'll probably end up something like you're talking about, where there'll be something that's sort of like a PC hooked up to something that's sort of like a television that you'll watch everything on, and you'll be delivered an IP.
You know, a year ago, I probably would have agreed with that. I think the issue today is that a lot of the networks are stuck in a position, right, where they want to do, just as you said, they want to manage the transition gracefully. They acknowledge where things are going, but they also acknowledge their current client base and the businesses they're in today. And then they remember that every show they air is available on BitTorrent 45 minutes later in perfect high definition volume, right? And that's where the discussion goes to, now what do we do?
No, there's definitely an acceleration that's caused, you know, I mean, ABC is clearly seeing that, you know, taking a view for theater owners and for television affiliates, that they're being forced into this by consumer demand. So that could accelerate.
Or prominent board members.
Yeah, that too, but that would go in another direction. For iTunes.
Questions?
Well, for somebody like ABC or a network, where having one particular episode, ripped off and going up on YouTube can be written off as advertising and promotion, and that's great for them because they're continually putting out product. My question is, as the producer of the content, who's project by project, I had a movie out in the spring. I was on a cable channel, and 2 hours after it was done, it was for sale on eBay, and it was available on torrent. I had a movie in theaters over the summer. It was on YouTube, and
It was probably on YouTube before it was in the theater.
yeah, it came in this week. With eBay has an interesting take, which is like guilty until proven innocent. I called them up, I said, this needs to be taken down. Back to my form, it's gone. YouTube has taken months, and they still won't take it down. And you have to think, what does the network can write off as promotion, but what can the individual producer do to protect their assets?
Well, unless somebody wants to take that, but.
I don't think there's any easy answer. It is a problem. And it goes to the heart of how you fund projects going forward, because it really begins to cut into the economic base that you depend on to get funding. You will end up with everything in the world will be YouTube. There will be no 24s or Desperate Housewives and funding.
Yeah, and it's an issue for the networks. I mean, they're not taking that lightly that their content showing up on YouTube. A great case point is that happened to NBC. Their content was getting up on YouTube, and other people were monetizing it, so they didn't stand
But when
still.
they call YouTube, it gets taken off of that.
Yeah, but NBC didn't stand still. What they did, they said, you know what, this is going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a marketplace, and they formed a company, the National Broadband Company, a separate subsidiary. It's funded by all their affiliates, and they're putting all their content into the marketplace and making it available to any online publisher. And so in a sense, they're syndicating that content, but they're also controlling it. And they're controlling their brand and controlling the monetization aspects of it. And you know, they're going to be launching this fairly soon, but there's a great point of a big network saying, you know, we got to do something about this, and instead of fighting it, we're just going to make all our content available to any online publisher that wants access to it.
And I think too that it's early, right? I mean, you said 12 months ago, YouTube had what, 100,000 users?
100,000 unique visitors.
Right, so it's grown several orders of magnitude in the last 12 months. So it's still very much the first inning. And I think there's a sense, particularly among content owners and producers, of bewilderment, right? It's only been a handful of months since suddenly this massive new audience popped up who has, you know, sort of taken their own take on the safe harbor provisions, who are playing, you know, catch me if you can as it relates to copyright. And quite frankly, that's not fair. That's not a business. And you can't produce great content when the economic model is catch me if you can, right? So that needs to change. You're starting to see that. The record labels are stepping up and saying copyright needs to be enforced, content needs to be licensed, and the only way content can be monetized is when we cooperate both through distribution and production to ensure that the people who produce great content are fairly compensated. So I think that's starting to change. It's somewhat surprising to me it's taken this long. But I think over the next 12 months, you'll see more and more involvement, particularly now that there's deep pockets who are in control of those distribution mechanisms. You'll see more and more content owners, both big and small, work together to ensure that content is properly monetized.
I mean, isn't it a little bit back to something we said earlier, which is either get it out there yourself or be prepared to deal with the fact that your audience is going to do it. I mean, the technology essentially gotten to the point where anybody can put anything online. And so if you're going to say, listen, we're going to control our distribution and we're going to only make it available here, there, and there, and you actually think you can enforce that, you're smoking something good. Give the name of the dealer, right? And it's just if you don't do it, they will do it. Right?
Yeah, so
and that I think is the lesson that everyone's kind of learned, right?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, in the NBC case, so if you've got a website, you'll be able to go to MBBC.com and get all the Saturday Night Live content, the late night content, as well as any other licensor that wants to contribute their content up there. So they're creating this incredible marketplace, and you know, to Scott's point, they're making it available to anyone who wants to get it, and they're sharing in the monetization aspects of that and controlling some of it. So,
What's the revenue there?
it's ad supported. And they split the advertising revenue with the website owners.
So they're saying we'll provide a better quality of our content to you if you have a little bit of advertising than you can find by somebody ripping it off of the web.
Absolutely, yeah. Take our content, consume it, because it benefits everybody. It's more consumption, and everybody makes money by doing it.
More consumers are likely to go to the home source as well, as opposed to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, and also when it's made available legally or by the copyright or by the publisher, it's generally easier to access. I mean, I'd love to hear somebody else's opinion, but in my view, one of the things that moved YouTube disproportionately was, you know, the pirate networks prior to YouTube, the BitTorrents and Zazzle, were actually hard to use. I mean, for most average people, they were hard to use. YouTube's brain dead simple, which is sort of the elegance of it, just brain dead simple.
Easy to use, easy to share, and they even put a number in there to give you that little affirmation that I'm not the only one watching this. Other people are watching this.
Questions?
I think that's actually the key, that I'm not the only one watching this, that there are other people watching this. I feel like this whole discussion has been focused on content, where I actually think the internet is about people. I think YouTube succeeded because it fostered conversation around content, not because I could go there and find content. I share YouTube videos with my friends because I want to be the first one to show them this really funny video on IM that day. Like, it's about people connecting. MySpace succeeded because people use media to create their identity on the internet because they want to connect with other people. It's not because they want to be pirates. It's not because they really, you know, I mean, I do go to YouTube to see the Daily Show that I missed last night, but it's because one of my friends tells me I should. It's not because I know it's there. I don't go there searching for pirated content. It's all about community. I feel like treating the internet like television is false. And when you talk about the internet as TiVo, like you're missing what makes the internet, and that is not at all why YouTube succeeded. Like, I kind of want to mush you all together into one company, because then I think we'd do really well.
Yeah, 100% agree. And part of the problem is that, you know, a lot of them, especially the larger media companies, they're under such pressure to get their broadband strategy in place. And so their number one priority is, I've got to get my media assets online, first and foremost, and I got to do it in 4 to 6 weeks. And so unfortunately, they're approaching it just much like television, which is pretty sad. And replicating the TV experience, even all the advertising. I mean, 15-second pre-roll and companion banner ad. It's TV-like-ish. And Forrester actually came out with a great report not too long ago saying that nobody clicks on 15-second pre-roll ads, and 80% of viewers find those video ads totally annoying. But yet, we're still doing it. So hopefully that's going to change. But I totally agree. And I think it's going to be a matter of time where they finally realize that, boy, it's not enough that we just got our video up here because no one's consuming it. We've got to do a lot more. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's community wrapped around the video. Making a true entertainment platform and entertainment destination.
I'd like to agree with that as well. One of the things that we've been really cognizant of when building our products and services is developing social networking and consumer tools that allow people to easily build community around content and to be able to share very easily, email to a friend, get the link, syndicate this content. So it is using what the web is about, is these networks and being able to connect easily and develop community. That's what we're highly focused on.
I think the key is taking it, like for monetizing it is one step even further. Like, how do I monetize that conversation, that community? Like, that's why I go on the internet, is to connect with other people. That's the activity I'm there for. It's not to watch something passively. That passive, I don't know how many times I've heard the word consume in this conversation, and every time I'm like, no, it's not about consuming, it's about interacting. I actually work at Rever. The way that we're working on doing this right now is by attaching the ad to the video in a targeted way based on the tags of that video, and then allowing the people, our community, to send that video around. So by people sharing it, it's targeted because they're sending it to people who are interested in that content, and the ad is attached based on the content. Anyway.
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, I think part of the tension is that, on the one hand, there's this dash to get stuff out before it gets out for you, right? On the other hand, people are trying to understand the balance between the people who want to be actively engaged, right, which is clearly a huge audience, right? It's the YouTube audience, it's the MySpace audience, and it's a lot of other segments of the audience, a lot of other sites, with people who just want to be entertained, right, and still want to move from television to the internet, and aren't particularly interested in interaction. And nobody really, I don't know, is there anybody who's doing that well, who's going to strike a balance between kind of a directed experience and a more of a person-to-person driven experience?
I don't think it's about striking a balance. I think it's about making both things available.
Right.
So, I mean, because sometimes you feel like interacting and sometimes you feel like watching a movie. So the internet has just is capable of delivering both of those things. And adding the interactive element to television makes it a more interesting medium potentially. But you could sort of like talk on the phone while you're watching television. You could always do something like that in the old world. And it's just a matter of what you feel like at that moment. And so I think that the challenge for the technology providers is to be able to provide both experiences and go back and forth so that you're not being annoyed by a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant to watching Desperate Housewives, or when you're wanting to do community, you have it easily available and able to pull it.
But is there a site, other than YouTube, is there a site that you think is doing a good job of presenting?
It may come to you as no surprise that I think GoTo is doing that particularly well.
I'm actually stunned.
And we're based in Boston. But let me tell you why. And I think there's a couple of good reasons. Number one, our roots are in television. And so we spent a number of years focused on delivering great on-demand TV content for the large display device in the center of the living room. We ported that experience to the internet only after we had perfected it for television. And when we approached the internet, we approached it with the idea of having a TV web hybrid that would be the best of television, the best of the web. And the real differentiation there was that the world is not 30-second, 2-minute clips. The video is sometimes 15, 30, or 60 minutes long. An example would be our music product, where if you're interested in rap and hip-hop, you can call up a file that's 4 hours long. And if you want to kick back and watch rap and hip-hop, you can watch for 4 hours. The screen never goes blank. It never asks you to make a new selection. And once the stream is started, it simply streams video. You can put it up into full screen, kick back and relax. If you want instant access to 50 Cent or just 50 Cent videos, you can search for those, pull up just those segments and go instantly to that segment. So what we've tried to do is make it a passive experience for those who want to kick back and enjoy entertainment. We've tried to make it an involved experience for those who want to participate and get precisely to the segments that they find interesting.
And do you have any way to measure what percent of the audience goes each way?
Yeah, well, I mean, we see a high level of involvement.
I was struggling with that.
It was an interesting data point.
Yeah. What we've seen is that session times are multiples longer than the average video site. So we know that people are taking time to just kick back and watch. We're given that opportunity, and so many sites today don't do that. So if you look at Yahoo's launch product for music videos or AOL or others, typically the screen goes black every 3 minutes. That's a problem if you're 15, to have to keep going back to a menu that's text-based and making a new selection. That's not fun.
Dave Clark, I mean, you have the same, I mean, you have a search-focused business, but you also choose and select and highlight certain pieces. What's kind of the breakdown of people who come in and go right to search versus people who come in and hit one of the things that you're promoting?
It's much stronger towards people using search because that's what we are. But we're finding we're getting much more stickiness because of the stuff that we present on our front page. Some of that is picked by human editors, and a lot of that is picked by technology and with partners that we work with. But overall, search first. But people are, if there's something compelling, they'll click on it. Again, if it's presented, if it's a really good thumbnail, if it's interesting, people will click on it. If it's just a blank Desperate Housewives show logo with no picture behind it, they might skip it. I think, you know, and with the girl in the audience with Rever, what she said, you know, community is so important. And it wasn't that many years ago that video was only on our TVs. And at that time, most of your interactions at work, the water cooler, things like that. Now, less and less people work in an environment where they have that interaction at coffee break or at the water cooler or whatever. And video is being delivered by a computer in different places. People want to talk about what they're seeing and what they're viewing. And now it's not just scheduled programming, it's other user-generated content, but people want to share it. And like she said, you know, they want to be the first one to say, hey, have you seen this yet? And it gives them a little bit of, you know, authority, and it makes them that this person is topical.
I think linear TV can be a great source too. I mean, MTV Overdrive is a great example of somebody who's got the model nailed, right? You watch 2 Days or Laguna Beach, and then, you know, immediately after the show, they drive you to MTV Overdrive for all the exclusive content. And, you know, you go to Overdrive, and it's community, it's gaming, it's everything, and that's what it's all about. So, in my view, MTV Overdrive is a great example of that model.
Sure. Question? MTV is one example. Is there another? Is there another one to this one?
I think an example of, I saw it last night, is on HBO, Bill Maher's show. The last thing he says is see on HBO Online. That's always really good signs out, and apparently they get a great, you know, number of visits.
Alright, in terms of Rever and what Jackie's saying, you know, I think Rever when it first came out was a great idea and the viral and all of that, but it seems like now there's like 100+ people that are doing what Rever was doing, and I think Google AdWords is doing what Rever was doing. What makes any of these viral things stand out? I mean, is it just hopefully they get that market and then they get the most viral, or is every time I see a viral video it's from a different source? Like I got one from Brightcove viral, and I got a Rever viral, and I got a Whitebox viral.
Well, it's a fair point. I mean, people tend to upload to 6 sites. No, but I think it's a fair question. Right? People tend to upload. If they're going to upload a clip that they've put some care into or they like or whatever, they're going to upload it to at least 3 or 4, maybe as many as 6 sites. Right. So given that, how does a site that's designed to be viral differentiate itself? Does it say, well, you know, our version of the same stuff is different, right?
By making it easier to find, more searchable, by presenting it, by when you click on it, it runs. You know? People have a certain attention span.
You know, in terms of use, that is, you know, pro creator, there's that. You know, there's also, I mean, we actually share revenue not only with our creators, but with the people who are sharing. So if I'm a Rever affiliate and I have a website, or I am a link around, I get 20% of the ad revenue just for sharing the video. So, I mean, that, I don't know that anyone else is doing that yet.
Yeah, we have, we call it affiliate economics, and it allows people who are also aggregating your content to participate in the monetization.
Yeah, and Google Video, their affiliate program has a similar mechanism.
And Amazon's been doing it for a while.
No, I know, but I mean, with the ad actually, I'm talking about like with the ad actually attached to the video and it's targeted. I mean, whatever, it's early in the space and who knows how it's all going to come down. But I mean, the way we differentiate ourselves is by that affiliate network and by, you know, just being really pro creator and like pro web 2.0. We don't use CRM, everything's downloadable. I mean, you know, that's who we are. But who knows how it's gonna shake out.
I mean, one of the ways you differentiate yourself is by being first, which unfortunately is hard to do
Right.
after someone has already done it.
All right, so quick closing questions. The last year or so, we've seen, actually, we've seen a really dramatic shift in the space, right? Primarily led, I think it was really kicked off by the ABC iTunes announcement last year, right? After that, sort of all hell broke loose, and it's still pretty loose. That was last year's big breakthrough. What's going to be the big breakthrough the next year? We'll go right down the line. Todd?
Jeez.
Shouldn't take the seat.
Yeah, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. Somebody is going to figure out a way to ultimately get this to my nice television in my living room that I spent all that money on. Because there are times when I do like to come home and sit back and watch all the great content in my living room. So, I'm definitely keeping my eyes on what Apple's doing with the iTV, and hopefully 2007 is the year that it becomes easier now to consume and interact and build communities in my living room.
I have to agree with what Apple's doing with the. I thought this would be the Christmas of little boxes to get your signal from your computer to your TV. I thought they would be everywhere in department stores and the biggest thing. And the other thing I guess to watch for is with Google and YouTube, the first lawsuit that when there's a decision, a big one.
Yeah, I really feel like content is, and how you consume and how you watch it is a cultural thing. And I'd like to be able to see whatever I want, whenever, on any device that I choose. So if I want to see it on my portable device, if I'm on a plane and I want to put all my TV episodes or movies that I want to see on my iPod, I want to be able to do that. And if I want to watch whatever I'm curious about, like videos that have been emailed to me, if I want to see it on my TV, I want to be able to do that as well. So I think creating, a format that could go to multiple devices, whatever you choose to watch, I think that would be, something really big.
You're just saying scalable content, right?
Yeah, where you could watch it on multiple devices and make it be your choice and have it be available based on how you like to consume your content.
Well, if the criteria is breakthrough, I think all these things you're talking about are going to happen incrementally. Every year it'll be a little easier to put it on a big screen, and you can always burn a DVD and walk it down the hall. So those are things will be important underlying trends, but they're going to be gradual, not breakthrough things. I think if there's a breakthrough thing in the next 12 months, it will be if Google figures out how to make their auction model work for television, because that will change if you look at how paid search changed the economics of the internet itself. I mean, it amazed me to think back in 2001 when I was at Yahoo, we were planning the replan of Yahoo, what the next model was going to be for revenue, as opposed to just blackmailing companies and giving us marketing dollars. And we never discussed paid search in 2001. So if you think about what that's meant to the internet in a very short period of time, a paid search, paid auction model for television ads, whatever that turns out to be, could be revolutionary. So that's the only really breakthrough thing I see.
Yeah, I think Google bought
DMARC.
Semantics.
They bought Applied Semantics
in
in
like 2002,
2000.
I think 2002.
Late 2002.
Yeah. It's funny, it's been 4 years. Wow.
But that was AdSense. That wasn't AdWords, and that was
Right.
the auction model.
Right.
It was really Overture's auction patents that
Drove that.
drove all that stuff. That's why Google had to pay them $500 million.
Mark, you get the last word?
Great. I guess unlike my colleagues here on the panel, I don't particularly see Apple's entry into moving video from a PC to television is particularly unique or interesting.
I didn't
They do that today. I'm not picking on you. I think it was somebody that was not from Boston, but I think that's available today at Radio Shack for like $4. It's called like an AV cable, right? And people have chosen not to do that. So while it's interesting to us and people in this room at this conference, I don't think it's particularly interesting to the general population at large. So I don't see that as being a major differentiator in 2007. What I see as being really a game changer, and we'll see this in the second half of 2007, is the persons who control video distribution to the center of the living room, cable and satellite operators, partnering with their very biggest partners in content. Think sports and major media companies to deliver the very, very best programming to all three screens, PC, television, and mobile.
I sure hope so. Thanks very much for listening to our panel.